Business news now, and a group of oil exporting nations have agreed to cut production by a massive 2 million barrels a day. That's 2% of daily demand. The decision by the OPEC Plus group surprised investors who are looking for a much smaller increase. A reduction has already elicited a stern response from US officials who called the move short-sighted, and represents a snub to President Biden, who traveled to Saudi Arabia over the summer to plead for an increase in oil production. Well, our ICE correspondent Laurie Laird has been following events from London. She joins me now for analysis of the story and the rest of the day's business news. Good to see you, Laurie. A bigger than expected cut from OPEC Plus. What's behind this move?
Well, absolutely, Charles. The market was looking for maybe a cut of 1 million barrels per day, maybe 1.5 million at the most. 2 million was way outside of expectations. But the question is, Charles, is whether this cut will be on actual quotas or actual production, because there are so many countries, and Nigeria is one of the most salient, so many countries that are not already hitting their production quotas. In fact, that the total OPEC production quota is about 3.5 million barrels per day below what they are supposed to be producing. So whether this 2 million cut is nominal or an actual supply is still open to question.
And I suppose the other big question, Laurie, is whether this will have a big effect on oil prices.
Absolutely. And so far, not much of an effect, Charles. Brent crude oil is up about 1.5%, which sounds like a lot, but Brent is pretty volatile. And remember, in the early bits of the Ukraine conflict, we were seeing moves of 6, 7, 8% per day. A 1% move in Brent crude is not particularly significant. And you have to remember with Brent, not only do people buy it for end use, but people also buy it for investment purposes. And it's part of a lot of different commodities funds. So it tends to be quite volatile. That seeing such a big cut and only a 1.5% move up is a little bit surprising. I would have expected to see more on that front. But Brent's been down about 10% over the past 3 weeks. A lot of this cut in production was factored in, even if the cut on the actual day was bigger than what we thought.
And how much of a snub is this to President Biden? Because, I mean, he traveled to Saudi Arabia in the summer to plead with the authorities there.
Honestly, Charles, and it doesn't feel that long ago that we heard Joe Biden saying that MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, would be treated as a pariah after the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. And remember, Joe Biden was very, very negative about the relationship that his predecessor, Donald Trump, had maintained with Saudi Arabia. And you can see in the video that we're looking at now that Joe Biden has sort of gritted his teeth. He went to the Middle East. He met with MBS, and the impression that we all got from off-the-record briefings from various American officials is that Joe Biden very much wanted to see higher OPEC production. And of course, Saudi Arabia is the swing producer in OPEC. It has the most excess capacity. It doesn't look like Joe Biden got much at all. Shortly after Joe Biden was there was a tiny, tiny increase in production. That has all been more than reversed. And OPEC has said that they reserve the right to get together whenever they see fit, if production or if prices fall to a level that they find uncomfortable.
So, I mean, you've got, of course, the midterms coming up in America. You've got sort of popular opinion polls and so on. Could all this hurt Mr. Biden politically?
Without a doubt, it has the potential to hurt Biden. If crude prices do not move up too much, it shouldn't reverberate into petrol prices in the U.S. Excuse me, Charles. I think I hope that I can still see you. There's a little bit of a technical problem on my side, and please let me know. But it should, if prices do not rise all that much in the crude market, it shouldn't reverberate into petroleum prices in the U.S. Petroleum prices are such an incredible political issue in the U.S. But there's also a lot of talk that America may increase supply as much as it can by releasing some oil from what's called the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And
don't worry, Laurie, we can see you and we can hear you loud and
brilliant.
clear.
Well, brilliant. Great, Charles. I'm glad for that because I wanted to add something about this Strategic Petroleum Reserve, the SPR. The U.S. has tapped it at the end of March, shortly after the start of the Ukraine war, and then extended its use of the SPR in July for 6 months, which ends at the end of October. But it's important to keep in mind that when the U.S. opened that SPR for the first time and renewed it in July, the prices were over $100 a barrel. That is way, way above where we are now. So to open the SPR again this close to a congressional election with oil prices under $100 a barrel will look a little bit political.
Right, we've got a couple more minutes before we have to go, Laurie. So fairly brief on these two final questions. The first one is related to the tech market. Is there anything further on the Musk-Twitter deal?
The only thing we've got, Charles, is a lot of people scratching their head, wondering why Elon Musk, after all of the fighting, capitulated. And not only did he capitulate on buying this, but he is buying Twitter at the original price. And the shares are trading well below that original price. So we're all wondering what the situation is. And the assumption is that Elon Musk's lawyers said, you don't have a case here. This was meant to go to trial on the 17th of October. And the feeling is that he was advised that you can't win this, settle now. I think the big question is, there are still a couple of hurdles to go through here. All that we know is that Elon Musk sent some information, sent a letter to Twitter saying he intends to go through with things. There still are some legal things for him to cross. There's still people wondering whether he will go through with it, but it looks like he's 7/8 of the way there.
Right, and the Nigerian government is suing Meta, the owner of Facebook, accusing the company of illegal advertising. What's the story there?
Absolutely. And this is a really interesting story, Charles, and to my mind, slightly underreported. The sums involved are not great, about $30 million US. And what Meta, as you say, the parent company of Facebook, what they are alleging is that Meta, Facebook ran some advertisements from Nigerian companies that hadn't been vetted by ARCON, the Nigerian Advertising Standards Bureau. And the reason this is interesting because it shows that it's not just regulators in the EU, in the US, and in the UK that are trying to come to terms with the advertising juggernaut that Google and Facebook have become. There are other countries that have some skin in the game with this as well.
Laurie, thanks very much indeed. Laurie Led, Arise business correspondent, talking to me there from London.